I can be the most presidential person ever. We had the biggest audience in the history of inaugural speech.
Let's start with the basics, how Donald Trump presents himself.
The labor leaders that came out, one of them said it was the single greatest meeting I've ever had with anybody. It's the highlight of my life.
From the moment he descended the golden escalator in Trump Tower to announce his presidential run in 2015,
I am officially running for President of the United States.
Trump has been adamant about projecting an image of immense wealth, unrivaled success, and exceptional intelligence. This wasn't just part of his campaign strategy, it was the foundation of his personal brand, cultivated over decades as a businessman, reality TV star, and media personality. But when we peel back the layers, this constant self-promotion isn't just a characteristic of a flamboyant entrepreneur.
My name's Donald Trump, and I'm the largest real estate developer in New York.
It's a hallmark trait often seen in authoritarian leaders, particularly those in Africa. Consider how Trump's public persona is built. He's repeatedly boasted about his fortune with lines like, "I'm really rich. I made billions and billions of dollars," as though his wealth is both proof of his competence and a qualification for leadership. He presents his business acumen not just as impressive, but almost divine, as if he possesses an innate genius that others can't comprehend. This isn't unique to Trump. It mirrors the behavior of many leaders who seek to establish themselves as larger-than-life figures, both domestically and on the world stage. Take Idi Amin, the former dictator of Uganda, as an example. Amin was notorious for making absurdly grandiose statements about his own intelligence, strength, and power. He once insisted on being referred to by his full self-styled title, His Excellency, President for Life, Field Marshal Al-Haji Dr. Idi Amin Dada, VC, DSO, MC, Lord of all the beasts of the earth and fishes of the seas, and conqueror of the British Empire and Africa in general, and Uganda in particular. This wasn't just about ego, it was a deliberate strategy to create an aura of invincibility and omnipotence. By demanding such elaborate titles, Amin reinforced his dominance not just politically, but psychologically over both his supporters and his adversaries. Now compare this to Trump's relentless self-aggrandizement. While he doesn't demand elaborate titles, he constructs his public identity with similar bravado. Whether calling himself a stable genius, claiming he's the best at negotiating deals, or insisting he knows more about ISIS than the generals, Trump's need to assert his superiority is constant. This behavior serves to elevate him above the ordinary political fray, positioning him as a figure who transcends traditional leadership norms. It's not just about words either, it's the imagery. Trump's properties are adorned with gold accents, marble finishes, and opulent decor designed to broadcast luxury and success. His private jet, the infamous Trump Force One, is outfitted with gold-plated seatbelt buckles. Even during his presidency, official photos often showed him seated at the center of power, with subordinates flanking him, reinforcing a visual narrative of dominance. This type of image crafting is reminiscent of African strongmen who curated their own mythologies, often commissioning larger-than-life statues, portraits, or even currency featuring their faces. The psychology behind this is powerful. When a leader constantly projects success, strength, and infallibility, it fosters a cult of personality. Supporters begin to see the leader not as a fallible human being, but as a symbol of national pride, resilience, or destiny. In Trump's case, many of his followers embraced the idea that he was America's savior, uniquely equipped to make America great again. This parallels how figures like Amin, Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire, or even modern leaders like Paul Biya of Cameroon maintain power, not just through policy, but through the careful construction of their personal legends. Moreover, this self-promotion isn't merely about vanity, it's a political tool. By constantly dominating the media narrative, Trump ensured that even his critics contributed to his brand's visibility. Every late-night joke, critical news segment, or viral tweet kept him at the center of public attention. This tactic, often described as controlling the oxygen of publicity, is another commonality with authoritarian leaders who thrive on being the focal point of both admiration and controversy. But why does this matter? Because leadership styles based on personality cults can have profound implications for democratic institutions. When leaders position themselves as indispensable, above reproach, or uniquely qualified, it undermines the principles of accountability, checks and balances, and healthy political discourse. In authoritarian regimes, this often leads to crackdowns on dissent, erosion of press freedoms, and the marginalization of political opposition. While the United States democratic framework provides safeguards, Trump's leadership style tested the resilience of those institutions in unprecedented ways. Trump's obsession with his image, his constant boasting, and his need to project dominance aren't just quirks of personality. They are strategic moves that align with a leadership archetype seen throughout history. Leaders who believe that controlling how they are perceived is as important, if not more so, than the policies they enact. Whether in Uganda, Zaire, or the United States, the tools of authoritarian self-promotion remain strikingly similar. Okay, let's shift our focus and talk about rhetoric. Because if there's one thing that defines Donald Trump's political style, it's his mastery of controversial, attention-grabbing language. Throughout his campaign and presidency, Trump made headlines with statements that ranged from provocative to outright inflammatory. Whether it was calling Mexican immigrants rapists, claiming that Muslims were celebrating after 9/11, or describing African nations as Suriname whole countries, Trump's rhetoric wasn't just off the cuff. It was part of a calculated strategy to energize his base and dominate the media narrative. But here's the interesting part. This style of political communication isn't unique to Trump. In fact, it mirrors the rhetoric employed by many African leaders who have used divisive language to consolidate power. Take Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa. Zuma often leaned on nationalist and xenophobic messaging, blaming foreign immigrants for South Africa's economic struggles. His speeches frequently painted a picture of South African identity under threat, stirring up resentment against outsiders as a way to deflect attention from his administration's corruption scandals. Scapegoating marginalized groups is a long-standing political tool. Leaders often blame immigrants or external enemies rather than addressing complex social and economic problems. For Trump, building a border wall wasn't just about security. It symbolized an us versus them narrative aimed at voters who felt left behind by global changes. Rhetoric like Trump's and Zuma's simplifies issues and stirs powerful emotions: fear, anger, and loyalty. Controversial statements become loyalty tests where supporters must stand by the leader regardless of ethical concerns. Leaders such as Robert Mugabe weaponized words similarly, using anti-Western messages to deflect blame. Trump's America First echoed this tactic, framing international allies and institutions as threats only he could counter. Trump's raw, repetitive speaking style was a strategic choice to connect with distrustful voters. Like Yahya Jammeh's approach in Gambia, it positioned him as the common man's champion. He also perpetuated constant crises, justifying extreme measures that erode democratic norms and leverage unfiltered social media to bypass traditional news, mirroring authoritarian propaganda methods. Ultimately, rhetoric can be divisive. By pitting us against them, leaders turn opponents into enemies, undermining compromise. Trump's inflammatory language and focus on crisis fit a playbook used by authoritarian figures worldwide. Whether in Africa, Eastern Europe, or the US, words remain a potent and potentially dangerous weapon in politics. What do you think? Do you see these parallels, or is Trump's style uniquely American? Let us know, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to watch more of our videos. Catch you in the next one.